Hello everyone and welcome back to Bally Spring. Yous are joining me on what's a lovely evening, and the reason yous are joining me in the evening time is because we are actually on our way down to Mick's here. Now if you don't remember, Mick is the man we sold hay to a little while back. We delivered it down to his farm, and well, Mick rang me because he's after getting himself into a spot of bother. He was milking there this evening, and when he had finished up, he was just coming up the laneway, and he actually tripped and took a little bit of a fall. And, well, he's after hurting his back fairly severely here. He's actually down in the care dock when he rang me. And the problem he's facing is that he has 2 fields of barley here that he was supposed to be cutting down first thing tomorrow morning, and well, right now he doesn't know if he can even see into an armchair, let alone see into a combine. So he remembered that I had given my card when I was down there, and he remembered that I had done the bit of contracting work. So he rang me wanting to know, was there basically any chance I could maybe work that harvester for him. And I told him the truth. I told him, like, I had done a little bit of harvesting but not a huge amount, and when I had been working in them, they were generally speaking in newer machines, but I'm sure we'll be able to figure it out. And I told him I felt confident enough I'd be able to get everything going for him. So that's what we're on our way down here to do. As you can see, he has these 2 fields of barley out here to our left. They're both ready to go, but we're just coming down this evening because there is a bit of stuff just to get it set up here for the morning. We're going to take the header down to the field and leave it down there nice and handy. Mick said to me there was no bother, I could leave the tractor in the field there overnight, just make sure and lock it up and yokes. But also he has his little grain trailer down here, and he has the sides on it, but he has a couple of little timber extensions that are supposed to go on to it as well, and he wants me to get that done for him. We're going to have to move that forage wagon as well. Where's the best place for me to park? I think I'll just pull up over here, we'll be out of the way. Right, we'll get this unlocked and we'll jump up here. God, this is a nice old tractor inside, isn't it? Get her fired up here. Some lights on here, so it's getting fairly dark. Now we'll just get some of this stuff moved here first. I saw the little forage boxes in the way, so we'll get that out of the way with first. But like I said, there should be a good little payday in this for us down here, because we're going to have a good few days work here now, I'd say, to be honest with you. The harvest itself there, that's probably going to take us, I'd say, at least a full day tomorrow. It'll probably be a long day at that. But he wants me to bale it then as well, and we'll be using our own baler for that because it is round bales he's going to be doing. But on top of that then, he has 2 grass fields cut down for hay there as well, and those have to be rowed up and baled, and he said he's going to have to get me to do that for him as well. So we'll be doing 1 field with round bales and 1 field there with his little square baler. So now that looks pretty good. We'll get her dropped off there. Where has he that little trailer? I think I see it up there beside the Ford. Right, well, we'll get it hooked up to this anyway and have that much done. Like I said, we have to put a little set of side extensions on. He said they were in that shed around the back there. So we'll see, can we get that done for him here as well. But yeah, by the time we get it all done now, we should have a good old payday there, to be honest. Like I said, there'll be a good few days work in it. Oh, better turn off them lights. We'll be at least 3 days down here, I'd say, by the time, we get all the baling done and get his bales in for him and everything else. So yeah, should be a good bit of work for us. It's unfortunate for Mick, I tell you. It just goes to show there, like, it's the worst of trying to run a farm on your own there like that, because you know the lads like Mick there, they don't have time to get sick or to get hurt or that, because you know in this case he was lucky enough there, he was able to ring me and come and get it done. But it's not easy to find lads to come and do stuff for you a lot of the time there now too. And like, you know, I'd said to him about milking, what way was he, or did he want me to milk for him or anything, and he said no. He said he has a nephew there that does a bit of milking as a bit of relief work sort of for him at times, and he doesn't really know too much about operating machinery or anything is the thing, so he can't really work this end of it for him. But he's going to help out there for the next few days and get that done for him, so you know at least he's not completely stuck that way. But you know, just goes to show there that, like, you know, it's a hard old way to be there on your own like that, because you know when something does go wrong and you get hurt like that, there things still have to keep going. And you know, it's all well and good if you do have someone there to help you, but like, you know, if you got stuck like the likes of farm relief or anything, you wouldn't have a hope. You might as well forget about it, like, you know. So you'd be looking at calling in some of the big contractors if you could even get them in the first place, is the thing too, like, you know. So yeah, it's a hard old going, and it's even something I'm kind of concerned about, you know, myself. Not so much for right now. We don't want to drive on too much of this crop at all if we can help it. But yeah, like I said, it's even something I'm slightly concerned about myself. I think we're going to clip that. If I stay going at that angle, I'm going to have to go out a little bit more into the crop. Now, shouldn't be you know, things are not too hectic at our little farm, of course, right yet, but you know, someday things are going to be more busy, and you know, it's a concern I definitely have, like, because if I get hurt or anything, you know, what am I going to do in terms of getting somebody in, or to get him to help us out or whatever. So yeah, you know, it's the problems of trying to farm on your own. Oh, we'll get this gate locked up. Right, I'm going to head on down here and try find these extensions and get them on, and hopefully when you rejoin us we will be getting ready to actually cut. So I'll talk to you there in the morning. Now, that should see us ready to rock and roll. We have had to reverse in on the crop there a little bit in order to be able to get on the header, but that should be fine. As you can see, I got his extensions on his little trailer there last night once I eventually found them. But yeah, we're ready to go now. We're making a fairly early start at it. Is about 8:15 there now, but as you can see, the sun is out in full force already. I just have a mixed combine heating up down here now, and like I said, we should be ready to go. Now, while we're on the way here, I'll just give you a couple of quick updates on the farm at home. And the first is on our international, which I'm sure you are curious about, but it did end up just being the little oil pressure control valve. Wasn't a very expensive fix, thankfully, about €30 for the part. I did also have to pay for a blade as well on that little flail, but I have both repaired now anyway, is the good news, and I did get up and finish our little bit of flailing off there as well. Let me just see, can I get that lid open? Do it now before I forget. But yeah, I managed to get it finished off, and yeah, luckily it didn't cost us too much money for either. But on top of that, we had the little bit of money came in then as well, because I got those 7 bales sold. Your man paid me €90 a bale for them, which was pretty nice. He didn't even quibble over the price, which was nice. So with about €630 came in from that. Yeah, so definitely won't complain. It pretty much paid for the repairs at least. Now, trying to get this yoke in is the next thing. You have to be careful in the old combines. I'm used to taking a wide line when you're on the tractor, but you want to stay in fairly tight with your front wheel on the combine, because it is the rear end of it that's going to be swinging around, of course. Now, see, can we get this lined up here fairly well. We want to keep back a little bit. Now we're looking pretty good, I think, there at that. Pull on into it. There we go. Right, just get it reversed back here a little bit so that I can pull out the trailer. And I'm going to jump out here and get our PTOs on and get this trailer and yokes out of the way, and then we'll get cutting. Okay, everything looks to be in good order. Everything looks to be running alright, yeah. Hopefully I have everything set up. I'll just get this gate shut. I do want to make sure I'm dropping straw from here and all. But yeah, this will be a moment of truth. I think we're pretty much good. We'll have to keep an eye on that container, because I think that is going to be our only way of knowing when we're getting near full. I don't think we have any warning beepers or anything on this one. But let's get our header lowered on down here. I think we might need to let down that reel a bit as well. Okay, I think we're probably good at that. Alright, let's get off. Okay, oh god, he's so tight enough in down to the bushes anyway. I know that much. Last thing I want to do is be catching bushes. Let's get back here a little bit. Hard to see in the mirror if we're even dropping straw. I'm just going to jump out here for a second here. Just make sure, like I said, the last thing I wanted to do is be chopping it on him. But while we're working away at this, I just wanted to give you a quick little update on something else, which is our little potato digger. Now, I actually went to look at another digger here. There was a man, he was only about 5 or 6 miles from here actually, and he had one for sale there, and I just called up to have a look at it. Now, he was looking about 2,500 for it, and it looks an alright little machine. It is only a single row digger, unfortunately. I would have definitely preferred something like that one we were looking at up in court with the double row, because, well, you know, you'd get the job done in basically half the time, and believe you me, that is going to be a slow job, because, you know, picking up the potatoes there, you're really only going to be probably travelling 3-4 miles an hour, I'd say, digging them up. So yeah, anything you could do to sort of speed that process up would certainly help. But yeah, it looks an alright machine. It was definitely left outside because there's an awful lot of surface rust on it. She's not too bad in terms of like, I don't think there's any real rot on it or anything, and you know, there's not an awful lot to go wrong with those machines. So you know, she might be alright, but it's like I say, I'm just sort of, I'm hesitant with it, because yeah, I would have really preferred to get something like your man's one up there. It was just unfortunate that we couldn't get him started on the money. Now, that auction is actually happening in about 4 days time, and well, if I get time, I'm definitely going to head on up to it, because, well, you know, if we could win it at the auction, and if it doesn't make the money he was looking for, maybe he'll change his mind and maybe he will decide to sell it on that little bit cheaper. But you know, maybe he won't. He seemed to be fairly stuck on the price with it, but I don't know, we might as well go up and have a shot at it anyway, because I did like the look of that one. I was just thinking about that man's place actually there, you know, the last few days, and I was just thinking, you know, it's unfortunate to see yet another small beef farm gone there, like, you know. It's been so much the case over the last few years, you know, even back where I grew up here originally, you know, you could say probably in a 7 to 8 mile radius of us there was probably 7 or 8 farms, you know, as well, and nowadays I think there's, what, maybe 3 of them left. You know, and the 3 that are left were the 3 biggest ones. Like, it's all the small family ones that went away, and unfortunately, yeah, that's just been the way it's gone over the last few years, you know. It's a different story to what it was back then, you know. But you wouldn't know, maybe someone will buy that place, and I think we're just about full, so that's pretty good timing. You know, like I said though, maybe somebody will go and buy that place. I think we're probably going to have to reverse in on the crop here to actually get in and get emptied, but we have a bit of room on the grass margin, so we shouldn't have to go too far. And it is nice there that there is the little beeper on it as well. I didn't know if this one would have one or not. But yeah, like I said, it's you know, you wouldn't know what's going to happen up there really. You know, maybe someone will come along and buy that and work it as a farm, but you know, there was also a lot of houses up there, and so it could be just as easy the case that someone could come along and, you know, buy that land there for housing development, and sure, maybe they'll flatten the whole place. So like I said, it's yeah, it's just unfortunate the way it's gone, you know. I was saying there, even where I grew up, you know, there was a lot of small family farms around, and sure, it was always great as a young lad because there was always loads of work to be got, you know, if you were looking for it. So it started back up here again now, and we'll get back in on it, get going again. But yeah, it's like I said, you know, I spent a lot of my summers and a lot of evenings after school and a lot of weekends working around the place on a lot of those small family farms that I mentioned, you know. It was always a great way to turn a few pound. There'd be always something lads would be looking for done if they didn't want calves taken care of. There'd be, you know, especially in the summer, there'd be plenty of work there going with either hauling grass, you know. I remember hauling grass. I was only probably 12 or 13 at the time, and you know, things that wouldn't fly these days, but they would have flew back then. But yeah, sure, like, you know, loads of young lads used to get lots of working around those places back in them days. You'd have half the under 16 team out picking wild oats out of a crop of wheat, and you'd have them all out then picking up bales when you'd be doing your square baling, and then it'd be the boys that would be out and loading them onto the trailers and getting them unloaded back in the yard and throw up into the sheds and yokes, you know. So it was always great to have them there when I was younger. But yeah, they're going away now these days, you know, and that's been the way it's been my whole life basically. Is it's just been watching those small family farms disappear, and like, you know, you have lots of people there now and they'll complain about how you have these big massive farms that are more akin to factories than they are farms, you know, anymore. But, you know, what they don't, a lot of them don't realise is that's the way things have had to go for a lot of them lads, you know. Because if you were back there 20 or 30 years ago, you know, you could have your little small family farm, you could have your 25 or 30 acres of land, and maybe you were only able to keep 70 or 80 cattle on it, but you could make a living doing that, you know. Like, yeah, sure, you might never have got rich, but you made enough to support yourself and to support your family, and, you know, for a lot of lads, that was really enough. There we are now. That's the second load of grain gone in. And we'll get ourselves back on out to the field. Mick is certainly doing well. We can empty that harvester just about twice into that trailer before we have to unload, and I'd say we're bringing in somewhere around 9 tons there, I'd say, at a time. So he's had 18 tons to come off it there so far, and you know, we're only probably about 2/3 of the way through that field now. But yeah, so he's doing well out of it, that's for sure. I tell you what, I do like this Fendt. Man, this is a nice tractor. I don't like this lane too much, but yeah, this is a comfortable old thing and a well finished thing inside. Tell you, for the age of it, Mick keeps it quite well. You wouldn't know this thing is heading on for 30 years old, that's for sure. Yeah, definitely nice bus, I tell you. I'd love a tractor like this of our own, but One day, one day. But to get back to what we were talking about there, I think I'll head back up to the middle of the field. But you know, I was just saying it's sad the way things have gone, and you know, I don't think a lot of people maybe fully understand or fully realise how we got here in the first place, you know. Now, stop us off there, we'll leave it fairly central the way if we have to come back for it. But yeah, it's like I said, you know, a lot of people maybe don't understand or don't realise that, well, you know, farmers, they were sort of pushed into expanding really in a lot of ways, like, you know, because well, really a lot of that comes down to the supermarkets. When supermarkets first came around, you know, that was probably what you could say mid to late 70s. But you know, by the time supermarkets were really sort of in every single town, and at least over here anyway, you know, that was probably into the 80s or maybe even the early 90s. And all through that time, you know, the supermarkets now, they talk about, like, you know, they're all about local produce and promoting local farming and stuff like that, but back then I can tell you they didn't care about the local farmer or having local produce. Nowadays it's nearly an advertising point for them, but back then they didn't care about it too much. Back then they only really cared about being able to put out, you know, a cheap product. The allure of a supermarket back in the day was that it's not only, you know, the convenience of being able to get everything in one place, it's being able to get everything cheap. And that was true of meat as well. And you know, they were importing meat from pretty much anywhere and everywhere they could, as long as it was cheap. They didn't care so much about the quality of it, and it didn't matter that the Irish farmers, or even, you know, this was the same for the lads in the UK and stuff as well, they didn't care that, you know, they were producing a better quality meat. All that really mattered was the price of it. And you know, to the consumer who's sitting there looking at two pieces of steak, and one is from out, you know, somewhere in the South Americas, and another one is from Ireland or the UK, and they're not going to know the difference in quality just by looking at it on the shelf, but what they are going to see is the difference in price. And you know, as the supermarkets became more popular and they came in everywhere, they did what Amazon are doing to small businesses today. They just pushed all the small businesses to one side. You know, a place like the small greengrocer got pushed out of business, but also the small butcher on the corner of the road, you know. And the thing is that when the butcher started suffering in terms of how much business he had, and that had a knock-on effect, because it meant that the abattoir couldn't sell him as much meat, and the abattoir had to look to sell the meat somewhere. And so where did they turn? Only to the supermarkets. But the thing was that the supermarkets weren't going to offer them the same price that they had been getting before. They were going to offer them a much reduced price. And you know, the abattoirs just kind of had to deal with that, and they had to accept that they were going to sell it at a shorter price. But they also didn't want their profits to take a hit, so they passed that loss on to the farmer. And you know, the farmer, it's always the guys at the bottom of the rung that end up suffering the most in these types of things. And you know, for this case, it was the farmer that really lost out, because all of a sudden he was looking at getting much lower prices from the abattoir. And for him though, the price of production on the beef was still the exact same. And you know, in the years since, it's been a case of, you know, the price of production has actually been going up, because nowadays you have to be able to produce not only a cheap meat, but you have to be able to produce that high quality meat as well. And you know, those two things, they don't really gel that well together, you could say. But it's like I said, you know, a lot of them places, they had it had big knock-on effects on lads. And you know, a lot of the small places, they just got pushed out, because you know, if if a small farm had been profitable there with its 70 or 80 cattle, you know, all of a sudden it was now looking at being much less profitable. And, you know, then over the years things would have slipped even more, and they would have reached a point of where they were maybe just sustainable, and then things got less sustainable, and then things got worse again, and, you know, they got to the point where not only was it not sustainable, but it wasn't even, you know, you couldn't make a full-time wage out of it. And that's what's happened with all the small farms these days. You know, the only time you see a small farm anymore is not when somebody is working at full time. These days it tends to be more of a, you know, a side income for lads, you could say. Just trying to get our pipe out here. But yeah, really the only way a lot of these small farms manage to stay going at all now is because, you know, the people that are working on them, they're getting up early in the morning and they're going out and they're getting their day's work done, and then they go on to their full-time job, which is their 9 to 6, and, you know, when they get home in the evening, that's when they start working on their farm again. And, you know, they do that and they work there on the weekends. And, you know, with the way things are gone now, it's just such a gamble it would be farming altogether. And, you know, that's really the big thing that will always scare me away from it as well. You know, I talked about us potentially getting animals in the future, but one thing I can guarantee is that we're not going to be getting beef stock, because, well, I don't like the idea of gambling on whether I'm actually going to make money or not. Because, like I say, that is the way it's gone. You know, you can be there. You know, there used to be the old joke between dairy farmers and beef farmers. You know, the dairy farmers would be always telling the beef boys they were doing nothing, that they had a handy. You know, and it'd be only a bit of friendly banter like between the two lots of them. But, you know, the beef farming, definitely there is still a lot of work involved. You're looking at, like, having to put in 2 years to prepare these animals in a lot of cases. And, you know, that's 2 years of making sure that they're kept out onto fresh grazing ground, and making sure that they're fed with meal, and making sure that you have enough feed there for the winter for them, and enough bedding and enough meal and everything to go on. You know, everything that needs to be done, veterinary costs, all that sort of stuff. And then at the end of all that, you're having to sit there wondering that when I bring these over to the abattoir, am I actually going to make a profit? Or am I just going to break even? Or am I even going to lose money? Because, you know, you can think you have your animals in good condition there, but you bring them into the abattoir and all of a sudden they don't weigh out quite as well as you were hoping for, or the meat doesn't get graded as well as you were hoping for, and all of those things are going to affect the cost. And all of a sudden, you know, even on a good day, you go in and, you know, you end up doing quite well out of it, and it turns out that you're going to make maybe what, 300-400 euro a head on 2 years worth of work. Like, that's not a big amount of money by any standard, you know, especially for all that work that you're after having been asked to put in, like, you know. But then if you go down and, you know, the prices are not where you expected them to be, or they don't weigh out as well as you thought they were going to, all of a sudden you could be looking at only breaking even on those cattle, and on the bad days you could be looking at even losing money on them. And it's like I say, it's not a very attractive proposition to me in terms of running a business, because I don't like having that element of guesswork in there. You know, I like to know that if I'm going to try and do something and make a go of it and make money on it, that I'm going to do just that at the end of it, and not have to worry that is today, you know, the day I lose money. Oh, thanks again, Mary, that was lovely. Good woman yourself. Oh, I tell you, I was just on the way in with the fourth load, and out arrives Mick's wife Mary waving me down, and of course she says, oh, dinner's on the table now, come on and get it. So I couldn't well refuse. by God, I tell you, when I went in there, she had a pile of bloody spuds on the table, lads. With the Lord God, I tell you one thing, you wouldn't leave there hungry anyway. And she's not a bad cook either, I'll give her that much. By God, I'm certainly fueled for the rest of the day. But anyway, to finish off our thought on what we were saying, and I know we were primarily focused there on talking about beef farming, but you know, the same has been true for a lot of small farms in general. Like, you know, a lot of the small dairy lads there, if you were a lad and you maybe had 40 or 50 acres and maybe you kept 50 or 60 cows, you know, at one time that would have supported a lad and the two sons, you know, whereas now it might support maybe one lad and maybe one son, but the other poor chap would have to go and look elsewhere for work. That'd be the way it is, you know. I said there, you know, that lads, they either needed to expand or, you know, they got left behind, and it is unfortunately the way it went. But you know, saying there that talking about expanding and doing it are two different things, you know, because it's not just a matter of being able to keep in more cattle. You have to have the land there to sustain them. You know, you need, if you were going to have more cattle, you need more land for them to be grazing on. You need more land for cutting silage off of. You know, you need more fodder for the winter. You need more grain for the winter. You need more bedding for the winter. You need more sheds to put them in. You know, it's never just as simple as just getting more cattle. Like, you know, there's many more things that many more factors that go into it. And sure, it's sad, but you know, it's just the way it's gone, I suppose. But that's why, you know, nowadays it is more important than ever to support your local farmers and to buy local and to do all those things, because, you know, a lot of them small places, they're you know, they're producing, like I said, on the side. It's a side gig for a lot of them, and if you want those small farms to stay around, you have to help to support the people in them, and that's just the way it is, you know. There we are now. This is the bit we want to see. The final stretch, so to speak. But yeah, no, I think we've made fairly good time through it here now today. We're not doing too bad. I might even maybe make a start on the baling this evening, I don't know. I might just leave it till tomorrow morning now, because it has been a long day now as is, so we'll just finish up as soon as we get a chance. Now, the last thing I was going to talk to you was just briefly to go back to something we actually talked about a few episodes ago, and that was just discussing our options in terms of a second cut on grass. And well, I still haven't really made up my mind fully. I've sort of narrowed down my options, I would say at least, that, you know, I think I have decided that we're either going to do one massive cut of hay, or we are going to make silage on that second cut, and then whatever is left over, we'll go for hay. Either way, I do want to try and make as much hay as possible. The reason for that is why, you know, I've mentioned before that we're not going to get rich making the hay or anything. The thing about the hay is that it has been, you know, a pretty consistent form of revenue there for us. You know, the money from the hay, while it's not the most amount of money you could be earning, it has kept trickling in there the whole time, and you know, that's really been our only form of consistent income. And so, yeah, I definitely wouldn't fall out with the idea of, you know, doing a good bit more hay, because I think it might be just as important to have that consistent form of revenue as it is, you know, to absolutely maximize our profits. So yeah, it's like I said, I haven't fully decided yet, and I'm still definitely open to hearing feedback on that, and I wanted to thank you for the feedback you did offer. It was definitely a help, and you know, I've definitely been taking that into consideration. And you know, like I said to you there a few times now, but don't ever be afraid to offer feedback, whether it be for the series or just something for around the farm itself, because I'm definitely always open to hearing it. Now we'll get our pipe out here, and as I finish off here for the day, and hopefully Mick is going to be happy with what wheat he has got in, because I do think he has got himself a pretty good harvest there. But as I finish up and get all this stuff put away, this is where we'll say goodbye, and hopefully, as always, everyone has enjoyed the episode. But until next time, take care and good luck.